Welcome to the Rob Liefeld Show featuring Robservations. I bring over 40 years experience in comic books and entertainment across 5 decades. I offer insights and opinions on the business and the art of comic books and pop culture. If it's happening in games, in movies, in streaming, or comic books, we're covering it right here on the Robservations Show. Hey everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Rob Liefeld Show featuring Robservations. I am your host, Rob Liefeld. I have been at this comic thing for a very, very long time. Comic books are my passion. Comic books are my love, and I was fortunate to break in 40 years ago, become addicted about 51 years ago, and comic books have provided my livelihood, helped me raise my kids, kind of make our way through the world. And along the way, I have met so many amazing talents, writers, artists, creators, and we celebrate all of them here on this show as comic books has really taken over pop culture and become so important in the grand scheme of the entertainment that we're given. We who pulled the comic books off the spinner rack know that the format of comic books is what gave birth to all of these streaming shows, the big blockbuster movies. And so we celebrate that on this show. And speaking of talent, we are fortunate today to have a fantastic talent, Mr. E.M. Gist, also known as Eric Gist. I was fortunate enough to meet Eric at a dinner party a few years back, and we got along, got on, and I got to know Eric. He started doing some covers for me. I'm fortunate enough to have a few covers that he was able to fit into his schedule, as he is so busy crafting these incredible, memorable cover images for the last several years for Marvel Comics. My interaction with Eric's art and the covers goes back about 10 years, but you're going to find out today it starts much sooner than that. But I started seeing his work on all manner of Marvel titles, and I was so enamored by the stuff that he was doing. A lot of Star Wars covers, over 50 Star Wars covers to date, as he has shared with me in the past, all over different X-Men comics. He was the dedicated cover artist on Werewolf by Night. That Marvel did a Red Band comic book. The whole comic book, I believe, was Red Band, and he was the cover artist, and they are spectacular images. These Star Wars images, they should be posters. They're just phenomenal paintings, renderings of some of our favorite characters. Moon Knight got the E.M. Gist glow up, and he is about to be the regular artist on the Undeadpool. Marvel is relaunching Deadpool called Undeadpool. 2 of the covers have been shown to you, have been shared with the public so far. One of them has Cable. He says in this interview that there's a third one on the way that we haven't seen yet. But the Undeadpool covers are, again, staggering. So for me, it's a real treat to see Eric doing his artistic renditions of characters that I've created, that I brought to life. And I've seen the Hildebrandt brothers draw these characters. I've seen Joe Jusko. I've seen all manner of incredibly talented painters, artists. But seeing Eric's art is just a jolt, because I am so inspired and I am so just excited by Eric's work. The colors, the sculpting, the compositions. He is the entire package, and it's why he's so busy. It's why he is so booked and so in demand. The few covers that I was able to get for him, I felt like, man, I'm so fortunate. He has a cover on the upcoming Youngblood launch number 1 in November, first week in November, so you don't want to miss that. It's fantastic, and we talk a little about that cover during this episode. But I wanted to get into the mind of an illustrator who is as talented as he is. When I was growing up, the stuff that had the painted covers, it seemed a little more special to me. Whether it was Bob Larkin or Earl Norem or the aforementioned Joe Jusko, all of these different painted renditions of the characters that we loved. they just set the characters apart. They made them look even more special. Somewhere between a photograph and a comic book illustration lied these incredible painted renditions. And I really feel like Eric right now, EM Gist, is at the top. Really, he's at the top of the game in this world of painted art, especially with the striking images that he comes up. And look, we had a great time. We talk about all of it. I am just gonna kick it directly into my very exciting, very informative interview with Mr. Eric Gist, EM Gist, coming up right now. I hope you enjoy it. I had a blast talking to Eric. Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, please join me in welcoming Eric Gist. Signs his work at times EM Gist, Eric Gist, one and the same. A phenomenal talent. We're going to get to know him a lot better today. Eric, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, Rob. Thanks for having me.
Hey, buddy, I really wanted to talk to you because I view you as one of the fresher new faces in this entire comic book universe, comic book realm of art. And I wanted to chat with you, especially given the period that you've broken into this last decade, and get all manner of thoughts from you on your work, your process, and the business at large, and trying to cover all of that during our conversation. So please start at the beginning. When did you enter the comic book world, the world of comic book art, making it professionally?
So for starting with making it professionally, specifically comic book art, I think I did the cover in 2006. I think I painted it, and it was a cover for Boom when they were just starting out. And it was a book called Tag. It was a like zombie, like old school, like zombie curse type of zombie comic book. Sort of like what was the Stephen King book? Was it Thinner? Was that what it was called?
Yes.
Where he gets cursed.
Did Keith Giffen write this book?
Yes. Yes.
Oh my gosh! You go back that far?
Yeah. Well, sort of. Yeah. Technically, yes. That was my first comic book cover, and I did it for Boom, and then it was really sparse for a handful of years, where I'd get 2 or 3, maybe 4 covers a year, because comics were, especially for painted stuff, was very slow at that time. It wasn't the greatest era for comic books.
Interesting.
But Boom was coming on and doing some cool stuff. There's another company called Radical and a few others that were starting off and doing some cool stuff. Most of them didn't make it, as a lot of the independent publishers don't. But yeah, that was my first cover that I did for them. It was a variant for I think it was issue 1. I'm pretty sure it was issue 1. I think it came out in 2007, but I did it in 2006.
Okay, wow. Okay, so this goes back much further than my awareness of you, which is great. I love it because I bought Tag. I thought it was a great high concept idea, and I'm wondering now if you're the cover that I'm seeing in my head. So I'm gonna definitely go track that back down. So you start in 2000. You're published in 2007. Then pick up what happens next.
So then there was a small company called Moonstone that gave me a couple covers here and there. I was trying to break into specifically Dark Horse at the time. I thought was going to be my best avenue because I was kind of known for doing horror stuff and non-superhero stuff. Although I love superhero stuff and that's what I wanted to do, I had more of a reputation outside of comics as doing more genre and horror and things along those lines, and they did more of that kind of stuff. Even their superhero stuff tended to be a little more genre-y than superheroes. And so I was trying that and, not getting a lot of traction. Honestly, I wasn't very good. But, good enough to get some work, just not the work I wanted to do. And then as time went by, I started doing some horror conventions, specifically one called Monsterpalooza at the time it was in Burbank. Yes, at the time it was in Burbank. It eventually moved over to Pasadena. And there I actually was lucky enough to meet Guillermo del Toro. And then he started doing his comic, The Strain, at Dark Horse. And the interior artist couldn't keep up the deadlines doing the covers, and so he recommended me for that. And that was kind of my first big break, where all of a sudden I was on a more or less monthly book. So I was guaranteed doing a cover a month for Dark Horse. It got me in at Dark Horse. Then they started liking my work and giving me other opportunities elsewhere for some creator owned, not my creator owned stuff, but other people's creator owned books, and then Aliens versus Predator, and that was kind of my first big, like, hey, this is a brand that people are aware of, and it's going to get me in front of a lot of eyes. And that was, I think I started the strain in 2013. I want to say my dates aren't exactly right; they're in the ballpark. I want to say 2013 was when I started on the strain, and I think it was cover number 5. And then I went on to do the entire run, which ended up being like 32 covers thereabout, something like that. So it was a good run for painted covers. It was a good run.
No, that is a great run, and I remember that show. I never saw the comics, but that's why I figured it was ballpark 2013, 2014.
Yeah.
So take us to that minute when you say you met Guillermo del Toro. Are you sharing your work with him, or does he pass by your booth and see your paintings? How does that break down?
Exactly that. My buddy and I, Doug Stambaugh, his pen name is Doug Nation. We were sharing a booth, and he does more inking stuff, very kind of Joseph Clement Cole, and I did painted stuff. And Guillermo del Toro came walking by. He would usually go to that convention because he wasn't super well known at the time. I mean, he was well known, but he wasn't like Guillermo del Toro now, right? Where he wouldn't be able to walk around a con. He was just walking around, and it was kind of cool. We saw him walking through, and I recognized him because I was a huge fan of his. And all of a sudden, as he's walking through the booth, he sees first my buddy's inkings because he's a big Clement Cole fan, and then looked over and saw my paintings and beelined right over to us and started talking to us, which was super flattering. And then kind of started picking our brains, like, hey, is this stuff for sale? Do you guys do freelance work? At first, he asked me if I did concept design, and I said, not really, but I would for you. And I think kind of put him off me doing concept work because he wants people that's what they want to do, right? Which is totally understandable. He asked if one of my paintings was for sale, and I said it was, but he didn't end up buying that piece. And he took my contact information and said, well, I'll be in touch. There's a project I'm working on, which went on to become Troll Hunters. But at the time, it was just a novel that he was writing. The novel was substantially different, very dark. And that he kind of maybe wanted me to do a cover for that. And then I didn't hear anything for months, probably about 5, 6, 7 months. Then I get an email out of the blue from him saying, hey, that project hasn't moved forward, but there's this other thing that I might be interested in using you for. Are you interested? And he told me it was a strain, and I'd already read the first book, and I thought it was great. I thought it was a lot of fun, and I thought it would be really cool to do. And then again, I didn't hear anything for a couple months, and I thought it was one of my buddies goofing with me. I told them that I'd met Guillermo, and I thought they were sending me an email just yanking my chain. And then I heard from Dark Horse in like December, and it kind of started from there. But no, super flattering because even at the time, he was one of my favorite directors working. Even his first, well, it wasn't his first movie, but his first like U.S. movie, Mimic, I thought was incredible. Even though apparently he's not happy with it because the studio kind of took control of it from him. But yeah, so yeah, it was kind of one of those things that you hear about happening, but doesn't happen to you, and it happened to me. So that was the first big opportunity.
That's a great. That is such a great story. I mean, I again, given the fans of Guillermo know that he likes comic books, and as you say that he I'm sure because your images and your craft are so eye-catching. I'm sure he's a guy who's like, hey, who's this? Checks it out. Boom, you're in business. I think that I didn't know that. That's a great story. That's such a great story.
Well, and he also loves that kind of older, pulpy throwback style, and I think there's a fair amount of that in my work. So I think he saw some Corbin influences in my work, and he's a big Corbin fan, and Frazetta influences. He's a big Frazetta fan, and I think he just saw a lot of stuff that he likes was also the things that I like, and thought, hey, this'll work.
So speaking to those particular influences that you just cited, I met you at, let's call it a dinner party a couple of years back.
Yep.
And when I found out your name was Eric Gist, and I'm like, oh, hey, this is the guy. This is this painter guy I've been digging. And over the course of time, when we've spoken, and I've told you like specifically why I dig your work, I've harkened back to not only those influences, but like there's a guy, and this is gonna, I'm old timey. Bear with me, audience. James Bama. Is that what I believe his name is? Is it
I believe it's Bama. That's what
Bama?
I've
Bama.
always
But
heard.
I was actually more concerned with is saying James. But yes, Bama. Bama. I grew up with his Doc Savage covers. And
Yeah, yeah.
Doc Savage is literally a pulp character, kind of lost to time. I know companies like Dynamite have tried to kind of bring him back. At the time, I believe 1974, 1975, they were doing a Doc Savage movie with Ron Ely, who starred in the Tarzan movies. So it got big, the billboard treatment, it got commercials. My dad took me to the drive in to see it. I really wanted to see Doc Savage. But guys, kids my age, when their parents would go to the mall, so I'm talking like 75, 76, 77, I mean through the early 80s, I would go to the bookstore, I'd go straight to the science fiction and the fantasy section, and I'd just look at all the killer painted covers by all the different artists that were clearly booking all these gigs for, because I think the booksellers knew like these killer painted uh, covers sometimes were what sold the book and got it into my hand into the checkout line. And so I really poured over these guys. You know, I was going to wait till later, but so this is not by Bama. But I'm holding up for the audio people. I'm holding up Doc Savage #1, the Marvel magazine, and I know that they printed it right here. The name of this guy, because it's they give him such a weird credit. This guy is named Robert Castell, and this was also a part of the or Castell Castell part of the posters. And inside, ironically, Ron Ely. There's a photo of him, and he is next to the Bama uh, paint, the actual painting, or they say in the photograph that whatever it is. But the thing I like about these guys, all of these guys you mentioned, Corbin, Frazetta, Bama, some others I'm going to share. I feel like they've carved or chiseled a real life rendition for me. The angles are a little sharper. It's less glossy, but no less appealing. I'm at a loss of words other than the sculpting part, which I've told you about. And here's the whole thing that I want to discuss with you. Painting is a skill set on top of a skill set. There are a bunch of great comic book artists, people I love, storytellers, guys with great styles, but they can't paint. They don't have that knowledge, that skill. And painters are adding a skill of painting on top of a skill of drawing. I really believe they're two different sets, unless someone as talented as you is like, well, I'm just going to draw and paint. Okay, so you've merged the two skill sets. But in regards to your approach and what drew Guillermo del Toro's attention, tell me what your approach when you are bringing an image to life with your style, because I believe you have a style. Can you walk me through what you're trying to achieve with your images?
Are you talking about more conceptually or more technically, or both?
Technically.
Okay. So technically, when I approach drawing, I approach it, as you said, sculpture. I approach it from a very sculptural standpoint, where I really think about the dimension of the form and the structure of the form, rather than just what things look like. So it goes back to the Renaissance, right, where it was more of a constructionist approach to things, where to draw and paint something, you actually had to understand it. Hence, the Renaissance man ideal, right? It's
Mm.
like if you want to paint a chair, you have to become a carpenter. If you want to paint a building, you have to become an architect. If you want to paint a person, you have to become an anatomist. So you actually have to know how everything is built and put together. And then later on, the Impressionists, equally brilliant, but a completely different approach, where they're not even concerned with what it is that they're painting. They're looking at a series of shapes, and those shapes have a value or temperature, a value or a tone, and a series of edges. And you apply that shape, just mimicking that shape, regardless of whether it's an eye or a leaf or a rug or whatever. Doesn't matter. It's just a shape. And you're mixing up that color and that value, and you're having on your brush, and you apply that shape. I'm influenced by those guys, and I take some of the design aspects of their work, but underneath it all, I'm a constructionist at heart, which means I'm learning how things are built, how things are made as best as I can, and then trying to recreate that reality in my mind, which keeps me from being a slave to my reference. So when I have a piece of reference, which I use ample reference, I shoot tons and tons and tons of reference. I use
Mm.
3D models, I use maquettes, anything that I can get reference for, it makes me more comfortable. But then when I look at the reference, I try to recreate almost like a 3D program in my head so that I can rotate that slightly. So if I need to turn a head a little bit or tweak a facial expression or change the lighting, I can do that in my mind's eye. Now, will that yield the best result? No, but I can get a good result. One of the guys that I sort of patterned my career after, Glenn Orbick, who unfortunately died very young, but a brilliant illustrator, amazing
Mm.
illustrator.
Yes.
He was my teacher's teacher, and he always said that people asked him why did he learn how to draw so well if he was just going to use tons of reference. And he always said, look, if you give me a good piece of reference, I can make an illustration that is 5 times better than that reference. So if you
Mm.
give me a bad piece of reference, well, it's only going to be 5 times better than that bad piece of reference. So the better reference you give me, I'm going to be able to spend more of my mind power, more of my energy with the fun stuff. But if you give me a bad piece of reference, I have to spend all my energy just making it work. And so it's very much that. So my approach is I gather as much reference as I can, and then I sort of amalgamate it in my mind's eye into what I want it to be.
Hmm.
And then I work on sketches from there, getting it down so that I have a visual in front of my eye. And I essentially create my own reference through the sketch phase by amalgamating all these other different pieces of reference and making a scene and a mood and the lighting that I want, basically. Not dissimilar from a director using storyboards or animatics or something like that to pre-visualize their film before they sit down to actually shoot the movie. Um, so does that make sense?
Oh no, I look. So we should also, I should tell people the reason that you are getting these amazing answers from Eric is you are an instructor. You are a teacher. Are you a professor? What is your title, and what school are
Uh,
you teaching at?
I guess just instructor is probably the word that I would use. So the
Okay.
school is Watts Atelier, and it's down here in Encinitas, North County, San Diego, and it's just a small like studio school. Not quite like a school, like what most people think of a school, but not quite an apprenticeship or an internship either. It's like
Hmm.
somewhere in between.
Okay.
Small class sizes, lots of one-on-one attention from the teacher, lots of live demonstrations by the teacher. It's not really a set curriculum as much as a set philosophy to approach things, and then basically just trying to baby step people from where they are to where you are.
I just honestly, Eric, when you broke down that constructionist aspect. I mean, you had you know, an enraptured audience in me. I love hearing this stuff because as I've told you, I really, I see it and the way that you approach the form and the figure. And I'm going to get to color and lighting in a minute because that's something that I've seen you, I feel you are expanding in that realm as if I put together a chronological kind of what I've known as your work. I see you having being more daring with color. But right now, when you lay your figures down, your compositions of your figures, and especially your beautiful faces, I love your faces. The the painted stuff has always stopped me. Like so whether it's these Doc Savage covers and and I've had like the kids who grew up my age, the guys who are my age. So this is John Bolton, cover of Bizarre Adventures. This is Marvel's magazine era. John Bolton was an amazing painter. I don't know if these are Earl Norham or Bob Larkin, some of these Planet of the Apes covers, but this is the stuff that I would see at the grocery store. Like this is what was next to the People magazines and the Sports Illustrateds, and these are the some Planet of the Apes covers that I'm holding up. But anything, whether it was the Deadly Hands of Kung Fu, whether it was the Bizarre Adventures, the Doc Savages, the Incredible Hulk magazines that were coming out, and some of those were by Joe Jusko and Bob Larkin, some of those guys I'm sharing with you. I want to say Orbic. You mentioned Orbic. Can we share with everybody if you're going to Google his name? It's Orbik. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So yeah, no, he's fantastic too. I think he did some superhero novel covers. I may have a couple of them of Captain America. Am I wrong?
I don't know if that he ever did any novel covers,
Okay.
but he did a lot of comic stuff, more for DC than for Marvel, but he did a
Okay.
few Marvel things. I may be wrong. Maybe I would, man, let me know if you find out that that's true, because I'd love to pick him up, because I've got all his comic covers. So if there's some superhero novel covers out there, that might be Steranko that you're thinking of. But that would surprise me if you were
No,
mixing
no,
that.
no. Hey, I'm flying in the dark here, buddy. I'm flying in the dark. I'm just trying to keep up. The but when I this painted arrow, what I'm trying to say is
Yeah,
when
yeah.
you see a character that you love painted, I want to say, man, I don't want to get this wrong. This was a stunning. I remember the afternoon I went into the grocery store in the late afternoons during the summers and the spring, and I saw this particular Bizarre Adventures. So who's my favorite comic book team? It's the X-Men, right? Well, here
Yeah.
is this incredible. It's the cover to Bizarre Adventures number 27. Paul Galassi. Thank God I didn't say Jujas. Paul Galassi uh, does this incredible rendition of my favorite characters, and you just stop because the what you guys do painting these figures, whether it's the X-Men, your Star Wars characters that you bring to life on all your amazing covers, it's just this world in between a photograph and a comic book, but it just lends so much more of a realistic, dynamic that I have never not been completely stopped in my tracks, totally impressed. And I mean, this is the world you live in. This is what you do. This is what you bring to life. And I do think that you have developed this very signature style. So after the strain and those covers, when do you do your first let's call it mainstream Marvel, mainstream DC work?
So my first, I mean, calling it mainstream, but if let's just start with DC and Marvel. The first stuff I did for DC, they were doing these. It was kind of at the beginning of when like the whole variant thing was really getting started. I can't remember exactly the year, but it probably would have been 2015 ish, 2016, and they were doing these like themed variants. They were Halloween variants, but they weren't calling them Halloween variants. I think they were called horror variants or something along those lines. And I got asked to do one of those, and that's actually kind of a an interesting story in that the editor that wanted to hire me loved my work, but I guess at the time at DC you had to get special approval to do painted covers. And
Mm.
I think it would have been, was it DiDio that was in charge at the time there?
What's the year?
2015.
Yeah, he's still there. Yep.
So he was, from what I was told, this is all coming secondhand to me, but I was told he was not a fan of painted comic stuff. He
Okay.
thought comics should be comic art, which I get, cool. But you had to get special approval from him, and the truth is, they're DC. If they want a painted cover, they can get Alex Ross or someone of that
Right.
ilk. They don't need
Right.
to break new talent for doing painted covers. There's just not enough of it to make it worth breaking new talent. But I posted an illustration on my, at the time I had a blog, and I posted an illustration on that was graphite rendered, and then I digitally colored it. And the editor immediately reached out to me and said, "Hey, if you can do this style for me, I can sort of subvert the special approval, because I can pay you for penciled, inked, and colored. We won't call it a painted cover because it's not a painted cover."
Oh, that's funny. Okay.
And so he hired me to do a cover for it was Justice League Dark, I think was the first one I did, and it was really cool because it had Swamp Thing. I love Swamp Thing. It had
Yes.
Deadman. It had whatever the standard cast of Justice League Dark. And the idea I came up with was to sort of chop them all up and then Frankenstein them back together, so they're
Mm-hmm.
all sharing different body parts.
Mm-hmm.
So like I think John Constantine had Swamp Thing's arm, and Swamp Thing had Dead Man's arm and half of his face, and so they were kind of cut up and then chopped all or sewn all back together. And I did it in that style, and that was my first like big two work. And I did another one for him the next year for Deathstroke, and I made him look like Jason Voorhees basically. And so it's sort of a Jason Voorhees Deathstroke mashup, although they couldn't say that because they didn't have the rights, but that's what it was.
Okay.
So that was my first big two work. And then I had been talking to Marvel, but they wanted me to do some samples because I hadn't done a lot of superhero stuff. And I hadn't had time to work on a sample, but then they saw that because the Deathstroke one made it onto a couple of top 10 lists for the month. And they saw that and they had a project coming up and they asked if I wanted to do that. That turned out to be the Haunted Mansion miniseries that they were doing as part of their Disney stuff at the time.
Mm.
And so yeah, then I jumped in. That was my first Marvel work, was doing the Haunted Mansion covers in that same style.
And we're talking still 2015, 2016 now?
Yeah, it would have been right around there. Yeah, because I think I'm coming up on my 10-year anniversary for Marvel. So yeah, it must have been 2000. They would have contacted me in 2015, and then it came out in 2016. I want to say.
So, as I said in the intro leading up to this, that people will have seen your covers on umpteen Star Wars comics, Moon Knight, Werewolf by Night, or Werewolf. I hope I got I hope I got that. I hope I
Yeah,
got
yeah,
that right. And you are
yep,
now presently. I've seen two in the solicitation so far. Doing, is it called Undeadpool? Is it called
yeah,
I think I got that right. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yep.
Which for me is like another giant thrill watching you bring. I think the is it the cover to number two has Cable on it? Is it? Am I right?
Both two and three. Three that hasn't been released, they both have Cable on it. But yeah,
Okay,
yes,
I
the one
saw
that's listed.
the cover to two, and I mean watching you draw both Deadpool, both Cable, obviously gives me quite the jolt, and so but the bottom line is you're doing a lot of mainstream stuff, and every artist knows they can feel it when they do that one cover or maybe a couple for artists, a couple issues, and then it's like grease the wheel, and suddenly the phone is ringing off the hook, and you have more on your plate than you know what to do with, or you just can tell that your name has gone up a few floors. Okay, do you have a cover that you identify as the one that got all the attention, maybe grabbed more eyeballs than any of the others?
Well, the first one would have been that Deathstroke cover because, like I
Okay.
said, it made a couple of the fan site top 10 lists. I think it made two
Okay.
or three of them. So that would be the first one where people really kind of in the mainstream audience started taking notice. At Marvel, I couldn't say it was a specific cover, but it was definitely getting on as the regular cover artist on Conan. That was kind of the first thing where I started getting like actually fan emails and messages and DMs, people
Okay.
saying that they loved what I was doing, and so yeah, I don't think it was necessarily a specific cover, but yeah, that opportunity is what kind of put me on the map in the main.
Because I just kept seeing more and more and more of your work. And of course, as a fan interfacing and as someone who has also got a publisher hat, you go, oh man, this guy's, his work is clearly connecting and taking off. Because now I used to maybe see one cover from him. Now I'm seeing three. And now I know that I'm going to get four. How many covers? We've talked about this personally, but I'm not sure if the numbers changed. How many covers a month can you produce?
I can produce four.
Okay.
Three is a lot more comfortable.
Okay. Uh, Behind me, during the duration of this, uh, I have displayed one of the covers that you were so very generous to fit me in on. I have a book that is ironically direct to consumer, and you have done a number of covers, of which only two have seen print. But the cover behind me is this Blood Wolf rendition, one of my character Blood Wolf, and I got to tell you, like I this is the definitive Blood Wolf for me. Okay, it's a character I created, but when I look at it, and this is what I'm talking about, like this this lives between a real life photo and a comic book illustration. It looks like someone caught a frame of him actually shooting someone. I love the angle, the tilt of the camera. Uh, in when you produce your covers, and I got to tell you them, I love the shadow across his giant stalk of hair. That was the thing that I was like, oh my gosh, this is just so it's so incredible. This cover is well over a year old. It's not something fresh and new, uh, but it is the you did another one with my characters from Bloodstrike. Then you've done a Prophet one that I have not published yet, and then you have a cover upcoming on Youngblood #1. So obviously, I'm a giant fan. I'm a giant fan, and just so you know, if any of the audio or the visual components while we're going back and forth, you may think it's not as sharp, but when it loads up, it's very sharp.
Sure.
We're just getting used to this digital studio that we're utilizing. The work, as I said, I've participated in your renditions of these characters, and am always thrilled when I get one. So now I know that I was able to slip into one of those slots of maybe there was only three per month
Yeah,
when you're doing work. I mean,
yeah,
wow.
they're about.
Okay, I'm even more honored now. Sometimes you give me a rough sketch. Do you have to give rough sketches to every editor for all your covers, or do they just now like, hey, whatever lands? Or on some of the licensed books, is that more stringent?
The license stuff, it's definitely more stringent. Lucasfilm pretty much insists on getting three sketches, three ideas.
Mm,
Um, for when I was working on Aliens versus Predator, I don't think they insisted on more sketches, but they were also a little bit stricter
mm,
on stuff. So I mean, like any licensed stuff, you've got more cooks in the kitchen, so you've got more opinions, and they want to see more sketches. For Marvel, they're pretty. I mean, they certainly still want to see a sketch, of course, because they don't want me going completely off the rails.
mhm.
But I don't think I've ever had a sketch straight up turned down for Marvel. So I turn in a sketch and they usually say, yeah, it looks great. Or maybe they have a couple of ideas just out of fun to collaborate on and throw in their 2 cents worth on it. Or a few times they've said, hey, we really like the sketch and we want to use it, but it doesn't work for this book. Can you give us something more like this? And then they've still ended up using the other sketch later on down the road. That happened on Conan. It happened on Werewolf by Night. It happened on, I want to say, Ghost Rider. So there's been a few where, yeah, I've turned in a sketch and they liked it. It wasn't that they didn't like the sketch, but it
Mhm.
just wasn't right for what they wanted for that particular book.
When you're talking about doing the covers to Conan, and I definitely grabbed many of the covers that you were doing for Conan. When Marvel then their time with that license is up, and it goes to whoever has the license now. Did those people call you immediately, or was there no continuation whatsoever?
No, I've done several covers for them, and I was in contact with them even then when they saw my covers come
Mm,
in. The guy that kind of runs the whole thing, he contacted me, and there was a few things that we talked about working on together that never materialized. But no, as soon as they took over, it's Heroic Signatures who actually owns all of the Robert E. Howard.
okay,
They are Robert E. Howard basically, and
okay,
then they publish through Titan, but Heroic does all the creative side of stuff, similar to like with Image, right? It's like you're doing all the creative side, and then you send the
sure.
book to them, and they promote it and print it, and do all that side of it. Very similar arrangement.
Okay,
Uh,
that's
so
really
yeah,
smart. That's really smart. I'm glad they did that because I would absolutely keep you in the in the family. I am not, as you can tell, buying as many of the Conan books since they went through the Robert E. Howard Direct.
right.
I don't see them. They don't have. I think it speaks to the distribution of them. People everyone from Disney told me in regards to the third Deadpool movie. Rob, you haven't seen a movie marketed like this before. Our distribution is like no other. And they kind of proved their point. I mean, as great as 20th Century Fox was, Disney is seen as the most formidable marketing and distribution. The reason I bring that up is I think when it comes to Marvel, that's probably why I saw a whole lot more Marvel stuff, is because it got more distribution. So I'm not seeing as many of those covers. With any of the comics that you've been doing and you've done runs of covers on, what is the comic book that you have done the longest consecutive covers for?
So the longest consecutive covers is easily The Strain.
Okay.
I think it was sort of broken up into three different volumes, and there was a few-month break between each of them because originally it was three novels,
Okay.
and they followed the same pattern with that. And there's a time jump between the novels, and I think they used that as an excuse to give the creative team a little bit of a break because strenuous it is working on a monthly book. So each volume they tried to stay on a monthly schedule, but then in between the volumes there was like a 3-4 month
Okay.
break, and then we would start back up again. So I did 30, technically, I think 30 consecutive covers, and then there were a couple of omnibus type of situations where I did new covers for those. So it was 32 covers total, but I guess 30 of them would have actually been consecutively numbered comic books. So as far as an actual run that you're talking about, issue 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, that would be the string.
So are those were those collected into trade paperbacks or collected editions if people and were
They
your
were
covers in
collected
all of them?
in trade paperbacks and then also big compendiums.
Okay.
And then I can't remember if they ended up doing a big giant omnibus for the entire series, but I want to say that yes, they did. In fact, I know they did. So they did. So there's 4 different variations, right? There's the floppies, then there was the whatever 6-issue trade
Okay.
paperbacks, give or take, and then there was a compendium for each volume, and then there was one big massive omnibus for the whole thing at the end.
Yeah, I wanted to address that specifically because people like me after this show are going to go to Amazon, and I just wanted to know where they can find those, where they can search those if they wanted to collect those. So that's great to know, because hunting hunting down those individuals will be much more difficult. Again, I'm thinking as someone who is going to be pursuing this when we're done with this interview. At Marvel, is there a title you've done consecutive covers on, like the greatest amount of numbers?
So my longest consecutive run on Marvel, I think it's close, but I think it was Werewolf by Night because I did 10 on that, and that was the entire Red Band series. So I did the entire run of the Red Band series. So that was issue 1 through 10. I think Conan, I think I only did. I'm trying to think of how many consecutive issues I did.
I know it's on a screen. I'm trying to limit the glare, but this is one of my favorites that you did for Werewolf.
Oh,
Uh,
thanks.
oh man, I mean, just the glow of the clock, the backlighting, that lavender. Tell us about bringing this cover to life. This
So
Werewolf.
that was actually one that I was talking about. That okay. So starting at the beginning, when they recently they created a whatever you want to call it, Midnight Suns office at Marvel, because the families of books, this, but I'm saying this for the listeners. The families of books have different editorial teams or houses, and round about the end of 2 years ago, I guess they started up for lack of a better term, the Midnight Suns office, like
Mhm.
their horror, their darker universe characters, and that's now all in one editorial office. And I think that they created that new. I don't think that had been around before, and before they'd been kind of split up between different whatever books that they were connected to. And when the new lead editor took over, he contacted me and asked if I would do 4 covers. And it was really nondescript. I think he just wanted to get me on the books for 4 covers. And he wanted a Werewolf by Night, a Ghost Rider, a Moon Knight, and a Blade. And at the time, I don't even think that they knew what those were going to be on, except for Werewolf by Night. And he said the Werewolf by Night has to be first, but the rest of them you can kind of get to them when you get to them over the next 6, 7, 8 months, and then we'll put them on a book once we figure out what it'll work for. I turned in that sketch for the Werewolf by Night, and he loved it. And he said, I definitely want to use this, but I want something that's a little bit more of a close-up focusing on the character, not so much narrative, more of an in-your-face kind of, hey, this is Werewolf by Night. And so I did a new sketch. So that became issue 2.
Okay,
And
this
I
is the
did a
covered
new
issue
sketch for
too. If
issue
you're
1.
looking it up,
Yep.
everybody. Okay.
And then I did a new sketch for issue 1, which is a real close-up view of Jack Russell in werewolf mode with a hand kind of reaching out of the camera.
Yeah.
And so that became issue 1. And then once I did that, he goes, well, are you ready to do the other one? Because we talked about me doing that one as well. And I said, yeah, sure. He goes, so does that mean you're going to be the new cover artist? And at the time, I didn't. This has happened to me twice at Marvel, where I did a cover that I thought was just a variant. And then when I was done, they asked me if I was ready to do the next one. And it turned out that I had inadvertently accepted a regular cover gig without even knowing it.
Well, I
So
think everyone is. I think is everyone is thankful that you did it. It really does continue what I believe is a long line of excellence in terms of Werewolf by Night covers that go back to the '70s. Because that book, I've got the omnibus on the shelf behind me, and I was flipping through it just last week. All the early Mike Plug stuff, and I think your covers were just. I mean, they're stunning. They're literally stunning. I mean, all of the work you're doing right now is just so eye-catching. And I've talked to different retailers, and you're one of those guys. We talk about that. I buy comics just for your cover, and God bless the interior team. whoever's doing the story to any of those. But I just see something I like, and I will march over to the counter and buy it on an image alone. And I think you're kind of out ahead of the pack on this right now in regards to. I know how in demand you are. I know I've seen the lines at the shows for people to get your cover signed and the lines for your exclusives. So, like I said, you've hit a chord. You're creating this fan base. Uh, Other than Werewolf by Night, let's go to Star Wars because that I mean so you're doing this incredible horror stuff. These incredible grisly images, like you said, they're very visceral of the werewolf. And this, I mean, that shot on the clock is just killer. But I've got a couple of your I got a couple of your Star Wars covers, and bro, I mean the texture on Boba Fett here, that armor. I mean, what cover is this?
That was for War of the Bounty Hunters, and I think that was issue 2, if I remember right.
So I love a great collage. Okay, I love when all the different images can be worked in. So you got three different kind of levels of imagery on this one, which I think is so beautiful. But uh, I mean that Boba Fett. I'm a Boba Fett guy. I love him. I love Boba Fett more than I love Darth Vader, and I do enjoy a good Darth Vader shot. But so walk me through that particular cover. This cover, putting this cover together. How many sketches? What were the approvals like from Lucasfilm?
There was 3 different sketches on that, and the reason they actually well, the reason I suspect that they chose that one, and it was kind of voiced to me, but they didn't come right out and say it, is that at the time we were kind of in the height of the no guns on covers thing that they've kind of relaxed on to a certain degree.
Mm.
And I've been told that as far as approvals go, there's sort of 3 different levels, right? There's no gun at all, guaranteed approval. There's gun in holster, okay, usually okay. There's gun in hand, well, now you're starting to get risky. There's gun pointed at camera, which is a no-no. Will not get approved.
So the original Star Wars posters that I have in the next room would not have gotten approved with Luke reaching out with his pistol at me.
That one would probably be borderline only because he's so small and you're not actually really seeing, the gun. Whereas I like well, as you've seen on your covers that I've done for you, I like the gun barrel,
Oh yeah.
right at the camera thing. I just love that visual. I think it's impactful. It's terrifying. And the reason they don't want it is because it is terrifying. And I get it. It can trigger some people. It's totally understandable. I dig it. And so I turn in a lot of sketches like that. And that was only my third Star Wars cover at the time. And I didn't know these rules yet. And I hadn't figured it out yet. Since I've kind of figured out some ways around it. But yeah.
I just want to make it really clear which cover I'm talking to. It's in my
Yeah.
next room. This is the poster. He's front and center. He is pointing a gun right at us. Okay. So again, it's I get it. I get the
Yeah.
time. We're not going to sit here and litigate. We're just going to make note that that's kind of funny to me. Okay.
Yeah.
That is kind of funny to me. This is the poster. This was on my wall as a kid. It's in my next room. So and Luke Luke Skywalker here, like you, Mr. Eric, who just said, I like a good gun barrel. I mean, on all mine, you do. So you just introduced me. I did not know about the no gun rule. This is I'm learning this as you're sharing this.
And again, rule is probably a little strong, but it's definitely something to take into account.
Um, yeah, that is so funny to me. Do you know who painted this? I don't. Do you know who painted this cover?
Oh, God, I do, but I'm drawing a blank on the name right off the top of my
It
head.
was this one and the Hildebrandt brothers that was on my room.
Right.
Again, I think every kid in the '70s they
Sure.
fell in love with these painted images. But getting back to this Boba Fett cover, and so you got this through during a time that's tricky, is what you're saying.
Yeah. And the other 2 sketches that I turned in, he was pointing more at the camera. So that was the one that he
Okay.
wasn't pointing at the camera.
Well, I love the ascendancy of the image, that it's going up to Vader and then up to the Star Destroyers above. I love so let's get into color. Okay. Again, you've got all the you got all the texture here that I just turns me on. I get so turned on by the painted textures, and yet what I love about this is this hot and cold dynamic you've got going on. So you know before you lay this down that you're working in the red on the bottom and the blue on the top.
Yeah, yeah.
Did you do a color comp first?
I can't remember if I did a color comp on that one or not. I mean, there must have been something, but I don't know how detailed it was. But I had a pretty good idea of what I wanted to do for the colors. Like usually, what I send to you. So my sketches with you, I send they're very very rough, the initial sketch, but it's pretty clear what's going on them. And then I
Yeah.
usually send you a tighter sketch just so that I make sure before I start painting that everything's still on track as far as being on model, being on character, yada yada yada. But those were pretty well defined as far as color goes. That one, I know my initial sketches were black and white. I know that what I turned into Marvel did not have color in it.
Okay.
But again, I had a pretty good idea of what I wanted to do. So I can't remember if I must have had something, but it probably wasn't very much. It was just like what you said. Hey, red down here, blue here. I'll figure out the rest in paint.
We've talked about influences on your work, and we've talked about when you mentioned Corbin and Frazetta and some of the others, and Frazetta to me has always been like the guy compositionally that just blows me away more than
Yeah,
anybody else. And then just the individual rendering, the sculpting of the figure. But when it comes to color, uh, and guys who do these like incredibly inventive kind of approaches to color, and I'm going to work into where I think you're going on this. From and what I really dig in some of your recent images. Who are the guys out there who you think stand out? Who are the most either experimental or the guys who catch your eye in terms of color theory with their work?
just in general, or guys out there working now.
Uh, the, I would go to maybe guys who would have had an influence on you or people that you dig.
So probably the big ones for me, obviously, again, Frazetta would definitely be in there.
Mhm.
They're all three guys that we've talked about. Corbin is huge because that guy just
Yes.
gave zero cares about realistic color, and I took that not so much his specific colors, but his willingness to just not really care what color things are supposed to be.
Yeah.
And then James Bama always had really subdued but creative use of color. And then Frazetta, again, another guy that just if something needed to be green, it was green. Whether in the real world it would be green or not, it's green now because that's what
Mhm.
serves the composition. Very abstractionist in his color, Frazetta. I mean, some of his stuff very monochromatic. Not really doing anything too special. Really dealing more with mood and value and edge. But then he would do other stuff where the colors were just bonkers, especially in his skies. And so those three guys are probably the big ones.
Okay.
But then you could also throw Dean Cornwell in there. His colors are ridiculous. Mainly through his clever use of staging, he would find a way for colors that he wanted to use to make sense. I wouldn't say he broke a lot of rules, but
Okay.
I think it would just send him in interesting, creative directions saying, hey, I need this over to be orange. What can I do to put something that would be orange over there? Where normally you would think it would be a sky and it would be blue. He'd end up putting a big like stucco building with sunlight on it instead. Things along those lines. Just very very clever in his approach and thought process. But the big ones to me that gave me breakthroughs would be Frazetta, Obama, and Corbin would probably be the big ones. I'm sure there's some that I'm forgetting, but those are the big ones.
I am trying to find the artist of this cover. It is I am thank you for correcting me. It is not Glenn Orbick. I'm aware of all the Orbick stuff. This way predates him. Are you aware who painted this? I literally have not been able to find it.
So
This is a 1968 Captain America novel with brandishing gun. It is one of my favorite images. I've been to 5 sites and I cannot source this guy. But anyway, this I freaking love that. That
yeah,
again.
I'm not sure who that is. I have seen that image. I'm not sure who
Oh,
that is. It might be one of the guys that came after Bama on the Doc Savage stuff because it
Okay.
definitely has a Bama vibe to it, which is why I could see it been mistaken for Glenn's work as well because he was hugely influenced by Bama.
The
Um,
the piece to the audio audience, it's called Captain America: The Great Gold Steel, and it's written by Ted White. It's a 1968. I didn't want to leave the screen. I have it on my shelf over here. I didn't want to move screen and go get it and screw up all my delicate technical stuff. Anyway, color theory. Again, the thing about this Captain America, you could kind of tell me it was a photo, but I know it's a painting, and so it lives, like I said, in between that world where
yeah,
I think the painted version looks cooler. And who was it that you said bring me reference and I'll make it look better than the reference?
that's Orbit.
Okay, I mean, and you can see it in Orbic's work. If you go and Google Glenn Orbik, you're in for a delight with your eyes. Again, a guy really fun color stuff. So, with keeping with your work and the work that I am digging so much, so uh, you've been doing a lot of X-Men covers lately, X-Men themed covers, X-Men related, X-Men family. I don't want to say
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
the. Here's another one of my favorites. It has that werewolf by night jumped out of frame so that uh is it Fanta what's his name?
Phantom X.
Phantom X could jump. I mean, dude, this is stunning. It's not just the figure work and the composition. It's those lush blues and lavenders. What colors am I missing here? Because I don't want to limit myself.
No,
Uh,
you're getting a lot of it. So you've got the blues and lavenders and the sort of framing element, and then you've got those golden amber tones of the light coming through the clock face. So
what
you're
what
starting to
what
figure out
cover
that
was
I've got a
this?
bit of a clock face fetish. So
What cover was this? What cover was this?
that was for so they were doing. I can't remember if it was a whole series, but I think it was called Giant Size X-Men Phantom X.
Okay. Well, if you guys can see that, Google it, go out and buy the actual copy. It is stunning, but I just see some really fun stuff going on with you and color. I want to say you're more fearless, like the command of that lavender with that bright gold, but it only draws my attention to the killer figure that's jumping out in front of me. But it's like all the elements are helping put what's front and center, front and center. I mean, hey, the orange, and if it's not orange, correct me. But my eye immediately registers bronze, orange, uh, pops the hell out of Blood Wolf on this cover. So, the reason I wanted to talk to you about so much of this is to pick your brain. And was there ever a time that Phantom X color was a different color scheme? Was it going to be green in the background? Any aqua colors? Why did you settle on that?
No, I think that for that particular one, so that was another one that I actually turned in multiple sketches on because it was a really kind of abstract. The story in that, I love that book, by the way. That's actually one of my favorite comics that I've ever done a cover
Okay.
for. The story's a lot of fun in it,
Okay.
but it's a very strange story, and so the to get that to come across literally on a cover was for me impossible. So I approached it from more of an abstract standpoint. So in the book, he basically goes through different time periods. So I wanted to have some way of representing that he was sort of breaking through linear time, and so I got a little cheesy, artistic, symbolic with it.
I love it.
And so there were several ideas of sort of approaching that, and they ended up liking that one the best. And on that particular one, that was always the color scheme. The other two had slightly different color schemes, not quite so punchy. I mean, that's very complementary color scheme. Like I mean, about as punchy complementary as it gets. The others were not quite so much.
Can you tell me you just shared this? So your Instagram, just for everybody listening, e.m.gist. Em Gist is his Instagram, and you shared this week. I'm going straight from your Instagram, and you bet this caught my eye. Okay, tell us about this gem right here. This beautiful rendition.
So first, I want to say that one's actually digital. That's actually a digital cover.
No, you jumped
Yeah.
ahead. I can't believe it. Okay, that was my next question. I How many digitals have you done?
I don't know an exact number, but they slip in there from time to time just because I get behind on deadline, or I just think the medium
Wow.
suits it better, or
You're
whatever. There's
blowing
sometimes
my
I'm trying.
mind. You are blowing my mind. You are blowing my mind. I did not know you were working. I was literally going to do a why you choose to work on physical canvases. And the reason I know this, people, is because I own three of Eric's physical canvases. So this is blowing. Oh man, I love it. So tell us about this. This is an indoor. This was a TV movie in the late '80s when they were bringing Star Wars to television, and that was all you were getting because the movies were over. I want to take you guys back into time and really understand that. I mean, this was in the TV Guide, a double page ad. It was a big spend, lots of commercials, and this is the celebrating the anniversary. Is that right of Star Wars? Is it called the Battle for Endor?
Battle
I
for
think it's a,
Endor, I think is yeah. It's either Battle of or Battle for. I think it's Battle for Endor.
okay.
Yeah, so yeah, it's the 40th anniversary, and that'll be the variant cover on issue 7 of the Star Wars flagship comic. And they just contacted me and said, "Hey, because I'm kind of, I don't know if I'd say I'm known for it, but I am known to be capable of doing movie poster style,
Mm-hmm.
compositions." There
Well,
it is.
so there's the Undeadpool. There's Cable. This is all again from your Instagram. Follow Eric on Instagram. EM Gist. Uh, listen, going back to the Star Wars
Uh-huh.
uh, movie posters. So let's go back to Guillermo del Toro, and he's like, "Would you like to work in?" Because part of where I was gonna lead with this line of questioning was so many of talents on par with yours, not greater than yours, but like at your level, because I think you're at a master class level of execution. So many of these guys are content to go do the concept design for film, for streaming, and just do these great turnarounds. I follow a number of them. I follow all manner of these guys, and they're all wicked talented. If I can throw in my
Yeah, they're
Boston
brilliant.
rendition,
Yeah.
um, but you that's not a realm you want to work in. As Guillermo kind of picked up from you at the time, and I'm not saying it's not out of the realm and you won't do it at some point, but you have chosen, you're not doing movie posters. I know those guys too. I know the movie poster guys. You are doing these 3 to 4 covers a month in comics. Can we expect you to continue in the comic book world, or are there indulgences like elsewhere that you're gonna kind of follow your muse on?
I mean, comics are my love. It's what I always wanted to do. In fact, the only reason I do painted covers is because I failed at doing interiors. I never really got good enough. Just
I'm
my
saving
nat.
that too. I'm leading up to that. I'm leading up to that.
So for the time being, yeah, I had a stack of rejection letters back in the day, and my natural proclivities just went more towards painting and single
Mm.
image illustration. So that's why I went into that. But I always wanted to work in comics. And then when I was sort of a full time student at Watts Atelier, actually before I started teaching there, I encountered Glenn Orbick's work because he was my teacher, Jeff Watts. He was Jeff Watts's teacher, and then also I saw Phil Hale's work, obviously Alex Ross at the time, and I fell in love with all their work, and I thought it was great, and I decided that was more what I wanted to do, so I started pursuing that. But comics were always my first love. It's always what I wanted to do. I read a lot as a kid, and a lot of that was comics, but it was also novels, the Doc Savage novels that you mentioned. I read just tons and tons and tons. But yeah, comics were always kind of my first and primary love when it came to what I wanted to do for a living. And I kind of found a way to use my natural skills, my natural aptitude, and weasel my way into doing comics.
I'm holding up this Wolverine xenomorph, 3, 4 xenomorphs coming at him. It's a cover to Avengers 4 that you did. I mean, when you're doing this, is there a period where you step away from the illustration at any point and just go, "I'm drawing Wolverine battling xenomorphs"? Like that's why comics are so awesome.
That happened when I got the job. In fact, I did not have time to do that cover. I took that cover and I did not have an opening in my schedule to do it because when someone offers you Wolverine fighting
Yeah.
xenomorphs, you take it. Alien is my favorite movie.
Mm,
And Wolverine, whenever people ask me who my favorite comic book character is,
yeah.
I would say, well, I'm going to throw Wolverine out because
Yeah.
it's everybody's favorite. Every
Yep.
Marvel fan,
Yep.
if they
Yep.
whether they admit it or not, Wolverine's their favorite. So then I
Yep.
go to the one that people don't say, like Moon Knight or Nightcrawler
Okay.
or
Okay.
someone like that, right? So I get offered that cover and I take it. And I was pulling two consecutive all nighters trying to get that done, and I ended up having to finish it digitally because I just couldn't get it done on time. So that painting is still sitting half finished down in my garage.
Okay. Okay, dude, this is rad. So you took a photo of the physical, upload it, and finished it digitally.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a pure merger. How often does that work in this crazy world of publishing?
I mean, for me, not
Hmm.
very often, because usually once I start a painting, I finish it. I try to be good about my schedule, and I don't get so far behind that I get myself into that kind of a bind. Usually, I know ahead of time if I'm going to have to do a cover digitally because of whatever I'm going to be traveling, whatever reason. But in that case, no, I ended up taking on too much work, and I had to finish it digitally. I've done that maybe 3 times. I've done over 100 covers for Marvel, and I've done three of them where I started out painting it and had to finish it digitally.
Well, one of the reasons I wanted to, that really intrigued me when you set out how this was completed is, look, when you break into the business, for me, it's obviously going back 40 years now, and when you're very delicate about your work, you're very delicate about the original. You really want to use as little whiteout and any opaque materials. You're just so concerned with making the most pristine piece of art that you possibly can, as a young penciler, as a young inker. And for the last 15 years, you just click it. No, that's not true. It's been 20 years. It clicked on for me around 20, uh, yeah, 2010. Like, this is production art. I need to make the deadline first and foremost. So I'm going to scan this page. I don't like that face. I got to get it to the colorist. And while he's coloring it, I'll tell him I'm going to upload a patch for the face that you can put it over. So it's a face that I'm more happy with. Or, nowadays, and in my talk with Dave Finch, he blew my mind when he's like, I use white Posca signature. I mean, those Posca markers are used in our business to sign comic books. And
Yeah.
now, since I talked to him, I'm like, hot damn, this works really good. I can't tell you how many times I've run around the house trying to find the right whiteout pin where I left it. And now I'm like, wait, I got this 50 white Poscas that I can but I actually own a Champions cover that Dave Cockrum did, and the lower quarter of the entire piece. It kept me from buying it the first time. I waited 5 years to actually pull the trigger on it because almost all of Black Widow, who's in the lower right hand section of the cover, a third of the cover is just a liberal amount. And if you turn the page, you can see the buildup of the white opaque paint. He just went to town covering up whatever he didn't like, and then he drew her on it. So I mean, the material is like it's built up like very thick on the layer, and I just wasn't crazy about it. But now, as I see things more, it's just you got to make those deadlines. You got to have it's I'm production minded, and so I dig that you just shared. Like, I couldn't finish this, so I mean, I really dig this. The process is what turns me on at my age, and I love this. I love that I accidentally tripped into how much of on the original. How much? I'm sure the audience wants to know how much is unfinished like what in this? Where is the line? Uh, Diagonally, horizontally, vertically, where you had to stop and you uploaded it and finished it digitally.
I'd have to go and look at it, but a good chunk of Wolverine is painted digitally,
Mm.
and I want to say the right hand xenomorph is painted digitally, and then the rest of it is just kind of a finishing pass, going over the whole thing, getting it tightened up where I want it to be.
So again, this is the cover, I believe, to Avengers 4. Those of you who are listening, if you want to go Google that, and I know
It's Avengers versus Aliens 4.
Aliens versus Avengers 4, Aliens versus Avengers 4. It's right on Eric's Instagram account, and I know holding up a screen to a screen isn't ideal for the purposes of this, but then I'm trying to give you guys reference. You can go get the printed editions if you'd like. Um, Look, man, it is clear that you are. one of the most in demand guys in terms of cover work. One of the episodes, I think it's going to air after this, that I did with my brick and mortar retailer, he had a very frank engagement with me on covers. A couple of years ago, he said he had gotten so fed up that he was just ordering the A covers. And I said, "Where do you stand on that now?" And he quickly launched into, Rob, I'm still a big proponent of A covers, but I'm going to be honest with you. The industry cannot survive on A covers. We are not going to make our rent and pay our bills on A covers. So these individual variant uh, covers, he goes, which, as you know, there are different artists that people chase and pursue. They are really helpful. Obviously, they're not ordered in the same quantity, and then they become rare. And like I said, Eric, I just see your covers, and they're so great looking. And I'm sure the editors wish your output would increase. So, are there jobs? You said you didn't want to take this, but you did. You fit in. You didn't have the time to take it, is what you said.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, what is is there work that you're turning down regularly?
Yeah. In fact, I just turned down a Wolverine cover that broke my heart.
Broke all our
And
hearts. My heart here. That sound is. My heart just broke.
so yeah, you worked with Mark Basso, and I've worked with Mark quite a bit. He was
Great
my
guy. Great guy.
editor on yeah, phenomenal guy. He and his brother Mikey are both great dudes, and they're both editors over there at Marvel. And it was Mark who offered me the Wolverine cover, and I've worked with him quite a bit. He was my editor on Conan as well. So yeah, it's he's a pleasure to work with. He and Cy, who's his assistant editor, they're awesome dudes to work with. Love working with them. But yeah, it just didn't work out this time, just because of some opportunities that I've been presented with that are a little more longer term. I don't have a lot of openings right now.
I got it. Look. I just want to also continue. Mark Basso was my editor on my last two Marvel projects, and any issues that I have with Marvel are way up on a different floor. The editorial guys, are busting their ass to make really great, fun comics with whatever limited resources they're offered in today's marketplace. Mark is absolutely one of the best. I really enjoyed working with him. I'm just mad we never got a cover from you on any of those. That also speaks to budgets and restraints. And the one guy that I was like, no, you're not telling me no on this, on Deadpool Blood was Scotty Young, and I went as far up the chain when Scotty told me that he would do it. Then I just went up the chain at Marvel until they relented. And I got to be, and that's about a year before I'm leaving. And at that point, I'm like, I shouldn't have to work this hard to get a cover that's going to make you Marvel money. And Scotty already agreed to it, and I shouldn't have to dance this hard, which is, again, a really great place to be in just a completely creator owned headspace. And again, if I'm talking business side, it's something that Todd McFarlane and I talked at length recently about, just that freedom, creator owned, and you don't have to worry if there's a gatekeeper who's going to stop you at level two, never level three, because it never makes sense. We in the business a long time, it just doesn't make sense. But what makes sense is that you don't have time to do the stuff. Like I said, I went to Scotty. Scotty said I can do it. Then it became my burden to carry that across the line. Somebody who's doing the kind of work you're doing, I understand you literally do only have so much time. Now, I have, as I said, three originals in possession of those at this time. I plan on adding a fourth very soon. And they're all different sizes, Eric. All of them are different sizes. What determines the size that you create these images on?
It kind of varies. The real answer that I give is that I remember reading Rockwell one time. He was interviewed, and he said that when he's doing an illustration, he dictates the size that he paints at. The main character's head cannot be smaller than a silver dollar.
Mm,
And that's in a pure world, that's the real answer. Sometimes it's that. So when I do my paintings, I buy big sheets of hardboard, big sheets of masonite from Home Depot or usually Lowe's because I like the stuff that they have better, and then I cut it to the size I want. Well, sometimes I just have these off sizes that are just a little bit smaller. So normally I do my covers 16 by 24, but I end up with these leftover boards that are just a little bit smaller than that,
okay.
and
Okay.
so I cut them down to 14 by 22. So sometimes I just end up with a stack of these, and if I end up getting a cover that I'm like, oh, this is a good size figure, I can do that one a slightly smaller size and still get what I want out of it. Like for instance, on yours, Blood Wolf is very large on the cover, and
Hmm.
so I felt comfortable doing that one a little bit smaller. And then I think the other two that I did for you were both 16 by 24, and I know this one's 16 by 24 for sure.
Oh
Uh,
baby, yeah, we're going to talk about it. That you teed it up perfectly. Look, I'm going to tell you something. When I get the TIFF or the final image from you after you've worked it over, and I love on the Youngblood, I was actually on vacation all over the world as different updates would come from you. I'm like, hey, I'm in Italy and I'm getting this version, and hey, he's got two more characters, and now I'm in Greece. It was so rad because that kind of stuff kept me engaged in comics and engaged in some great art and process. And then I get home and I get the final tip from you. And on these others, when we met and I took possession of the originals, and I got home, I pulled them all out in my office. I think I put it up on social media as well. And I was so in awe of them. And I think the Prophet one is probably the biggest one. I think the Prophet one is that no one's seen yet. Is I think it edges the other one maybe just by a hair, but they're magnificent. And now you've told me before, Rob, am I getting this term correct? Rob, I have to glaze it after it's done, or
Varnish it.
varnish.
Varnish.
And
Yeah.
so how long does it take for the varnishing to take?
So I like to wait a month before I varnish because I've had some accidents before
Mm,
with paint reactivating. It seems like it's dry, but then it reactivates when you varnish it because you're basically putting just a wet shellac over the top of the painting. Once you varnish it, depending on what the weather's like and how hot it is, it'll take anywhere from 3 to 5 days. I usually like to give it a week just to be safe before I'll ship it. So a month before I varnish it, and then once I varnish it, let the varnish dry for 5 days to a week, and then I'll ship it.
is that Youngblood painting varnished?
Not yet. It will be here in the next couple days.
Man, I can't buy it until it's varnished. Damn it! Let's go. God. No, that is that I just love learning all these things. Again, I am the most uninformed painter, and I hope some of that shows today because I hope everyone's learning as long as I am learning. So we've spoken of your process. We've gone digital because I literally was going to sit here and say, Eric, what do you think about what's going on in the digital space? Because I believe you are one of the few guys putting it on canvas right now. Okay, most of the guys I've spoken to are pure digital.
There's getting to be more and more. There's a bit of a resurgence right now, only because the original market is so
Mm,
strong. I'm fortunate that I am a painter, and so I can do this stuff and still make a living doing comics because I wouldn't be able to make a living off of the three covers that I can do a month. It just they couldn't pay. They literally even Marvel, even if they paid me, dipped into their deepest coffers, they couldn't pay me enough for me to make a living living in San Diego.
okay.
But with being able to sell the originals, I can. But I paint because I love painting. I don't hate digital as much as I used to, but I don't enjoy working digitally. It's not. It makes me. And this isn't a criticism to people who work digitally.
Of
I
course, of
think
course.
it's not a criticism of that at all. It's just me personally. I feel a little bit dead when I work digitally. It's just not. It's not fun to me.
There's a guy who I spoke to, and he said, Rob, I have never done anything but paint digitally. And he said, I wouldn't really know where to start. And that doesn't change the quality of what he's whipping out
No,
digitally because it looks amazing. I look, I see the skills that are available. I see the tools. I'm amazed just in the pencil and ink realm what you can do. But I am so always behind the eight ball. I just don't have time to learn a digital process. But I'm so grateful that you do what you do on canvas. Again, as somebody who owns originals and will continue to own originals, uh, it's fantastic because I do believe there's a window of about a decade. A lot of new, a lot of the new guys were 1,000% digital, and these people we're talking about the movie and film, design guys. That speed is also really important for them, and I know
oh,
that's why they use
absolutely,
those
yeah,
tools.
yeah.
But no, and speaking of selling art, it's like when people say to me or to Todd, you know, uh, most of Todd's Spider-Man art is gone. Most of it. Why is that? It was sold. Who sold it? He sold it. Most of my X-Force New Mutants art is gone. I sold it. Back in the day, we would all depend on that income. That was as you said, it really it offsets. And my favorite, as I'm learning, and good on this gentleman. He is a legend. Uh, I don't know him, but I have. He told me 35 years ago he doesn't sell his artwork, and he still has it all. And that's Walter Simonson. That is one line of thought. And now any one of his Thor covers from that period is going to go for six figures. Period.
Oh
End of
yeah,
discussion.
easy.
Um, but on the flip side, m- equally, maybe more popular at the time, and just as prolific, I would sit and work at George Perez's table at conventions, and he said, "Rob, I sell everything. If I want to have it, I'll draw it again." And I was like that's the sentence. That's it. That's the logic. And he literally was like, "No, Rob, if I like it, I'll just recreate it for myself. Otherwise, it's all for sale." And I heard that at 14 years old, and it made all the sense in the world to me. Both schools of thought make sense to me. They both have are no not one is not better than the other, but the idea, like as you said, that the art, the physical art, is something that provides is something I think people, because they always go, "What do you mean you guys sold your art?" Because they'll see a Todd McFarlane cover go for $680,000 in Heritage, and like, how did he not hold on to that? We weren't thinking that at all. Like
No.
that wasn't. It was literally whether it was myself, Jim Lee, Eric Larson, Art Adams. We'd all get together and hey, what's your pages moving? Because we'd all want to compare prices too. I'm not sure if that's going on in your realm, but people are
Yeah,
like,
tell me to a certain degree.
yeah, I love it. I love hearing that. Eric, who would you say? Do you have a class that you believe you were drafted in? Like for Todd and I, like it's like the Magic Larry Bird era, the MJ Barkley. Everybody has their era, their tribes. Who would you say is part of your tribe?
I mean, I have a lot of buddies, but not many of them that work in comics. I've always been a little bit kind of outside of that to a certain degree because I did teach for so long, and
Mm,
I really kind of called my shot and had something very specific that I wanted to do,
okay.
and so I really set myself up to sort of inch my way into it and not have to do work that I wasn't interested in doing. So it wasn't like a lot of my friends who right out of school had to go and like take $50 jobs and $100 jobs just to get their foot in the door and start paying their bills and not, have to beg mom and dad for
Right.
money. I did that in video games. So that was my stint
Okay.
in doing that. Hey,
Okay.
let's just get a job so that I'm paying my bills on my own. And I worked in video games for about 4 or 5 years. And so that was kind of that for me. Once I started doing freelance, within 2 or 3 years, I was more or less starting to do what I wanted to do. And I was still teaching at the time. I mean, I still teach, but I was teaching a lot at the time.
Okay.
So I used other ways so that I wasn't taking freelance work and getting work out there that I wasn't proud of. I kind of waited till I thought I was pretty decent before I stepped out there. But one of the, like, two of the guys that I would say probably the most, I mean, Jason Sean Alexander is a guy that I feel kind of, I mean, we're certainly friendly. I don't know that
Hmm.
I'd say we are friends, but not
Okay.
for a lack of chemistry or
Okay.
brotherhood, but just because we haven't spent a ton of time together. But he's a guy that I talk to a lot. Lucio Perillo is another one
Mm,
that
okay.
I think we kind of work in a similar vein. And Lucio, I'm a bit friendlier with. He and his wife. Well, I've only met his wife once, but I talk
Okay.
to Lucio almost every convention. He's a really great guy. So he's another one. So those would be two of the guys that, like, as far as comics, that I feel like have similar influences to me and similar goals to me and similar desires to me. Although Jason's just ridiculous. I mean, the guy's just so good at everything. His panel to panel stuff and his ink stuff is
Okay.
equally as good as his painted stuff. I wish he did more painted stuff these days, but but Jason's brilliant. So is Lucio.
I have two questions that I want to wrap up with. Okay. You mentioned sequentials. You mentioned doing sequentials. You mentioned that you said did you say you felt like you failed or didn't achieve whatever word
It
you,
didn't
you
achieve is probably a better way of putting it. Yeah.
let's do that. Well, I feel like, am I imagining that I may have seen some sequentials? I feel like I saw some. Yeah,
I showed you some sample pages when we met in person. I showed you some samples that I did about probably about 10 years ago now.
and what I saw of that, see, I'm letting you say these things. If they're not to be spoken of, they're not to be spoken of.
No,
But I like two things. And I think you're going to say to everybody what you said to me because I'm a greedy guy. I got it out of Alex Ross. He eventually painted me interiors. Me speaking as fan, me as fan, all of us as fan. Are we ever going to see a painted comic by you ever?
it would just be really tough just because of the financials of it. I would love it. Like in a perfect world where bills didn't matter and
Okay.
financials didn't matter, I would love it. I would love to do. It's just it's. I'm not sure we're in a time in comics where unless your name is Alex Ross, you can do painted interiors or creator owned stuff. You know,
Mm.
there's some guys out there doing creator owned stuff where they own
Okay.
everything, and you know they're doing that. But as far as doing work for hire, man, I don't know that that's financially feasible. Someone would have to pay me so much per page or
Okay.
buy the
Okay.
original
Good
pages
to
or something
know.
like that.
Good to
So,
know. I'm taking notes. So then pencil and ink. Pencil and ink.
right.
Is that an option? Are we
It
going to
is for
see
me.
Eric Gist? We okay? Is there something on deck, or is it something you plan on doing?
I mean, I'm just waiting for the right opportunity. So
Okay.
here's two things I'll say about that. One is I'm very happy doing what I'm doing with the illustration stuff and the
Hmm.
covers and all that, and I've had some level of success with it. And so for me to not do that, it would have to be a project that is a dream project, and I just don't have the pull as an
Okay.
interior artist to say, "Hey, I want to do a Wolverine miniseries, or I want to do a Moon Knight miniseries,
Okay.
or whatever form it ends up taking, a big one shot, an annual, whatever it is. I don't get to call my shot. If I did, I would have already called that shot. Who knows? Maybe it'll happen at some point where they want to keep me happy enough as a cover artist that they'll give me interiors. And then
Mm.
the other side of it is either A, maybe I'm just not good enough. I'm totally willing to accept that, my interiors. Or B, I think the more likely scenario is Marvel doesn't want to trade a cover artist who makes them money for an interior artist who probably would not.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Look, I think look, I'm trying to ask people what I naturally the curiosity I had upon encountering your work. We all want more. It's our kind of default setting. If we see something
Sure.
we like, we want more. I don't want one scoop. I want two. Could I have three scoops? Okay, so that's where I come from it as. Hey, you got this Youngblood painting behind you. Can you tell me what went into you? And let me just start by saying thank you for fitting me in to your very busy schedule because obviously you have a lot of stuff like a Wolverine cover you could have done. Thank you for doing this. I'm so excited to have these out in circulating in November. Uh, what was your thought process when you created that cover? And I'm going to tell you why I'm going to thank you one more time because you put so many characters in there. There's a lot of guys who would have gone one character and that's it. And we didn't talk parameters. I didn't say, "Hey Eric, I need the group." You didn't say, "Hey Rob, I really only want to do one." You just showed up with everybody. And I mean, as the guy that made Youngblood, I'm my heart grew bigger. So tell me what you were thinking.
So first off, I want to say thank you for giving me the opportunity because
Huh.
you've let me do all the covers, all the characters that I love doing, with the exception of one, which we've talked about already, and hopefully that's going to happen at some point. But no, all the characters you've let me paint have been a pleasure, and you've been really generous with deadlines on everything. So thank you. But as far as this, I didn't set out intending to do somewhat of an homage to Youngblood #1, but it kind of ended up being that to a certain degree. And then I just kind of wanted to do my take on your original cover.
I
I
love it.
put the camera angle a little bit more where, I'm kind of known for a little bit more cinematic
Mm.
camera angle. So I dropped
Yeah.
that camera angle down. I pulled in a little bit closer. I like radiating line composition. So, everything's kind of pointing out from a center point on it. So I was pushing that. And then for me, the trick was coming up with a background because I didn't want to go with just a graphic color,
Hmm.
although I could have,
Yeah.
but I wanted to do something. So actually, I went back to Frazetta and started looking through his stuff, and there's one of his paintings, the Mucker, that I really dig a lot, and I sort of stole his color scheme and his vibe, and then again kind of bent it, twisted, and made it my own, and put that as the environment. So if you go look through his mucker paintings, you'll see one that the background is there's some
I
similarities
love it.
there.
I would
Uh,
not have known that. Again, I just keep learning new stuff when I do these. Look, man, I cannot wait to get that cover out there, circulated. I can't wait to share the Prophet one with the world. And I can't wait to pick up every Star Wars, Marvel, X-Men, whatever, wherever your work is going to be gracing, I'm going to be buying it. I hope everybody listening here, if you have never encountered Eric Gist, go out, start collecting his images. They should start making your stuff into posters. You are a poster artist. These covers that you're doing for them are posters. They should start getting a whole bunch of posters out by you because it's the kind of stuff that I would have put on my wall. It's so ridiculously visual. Is there something that you didn't get a chance to say that you would like to add? Anything that you wanted to, share that I missed?
I can't really think of anything off the top of my head. Just thanks for the opportunity, and thanks to all the fans out there that buy my work and keep helping me to do what I love doing and paying my bills doing it. So,
Eric, you're crushing it. Your images are stunning. I'm just so thrilled. We talked about talking. I had to get to this place where I was comfortable with the interview format and a platform that would pull it off. And so I'm so glad that we took the time today. Thank you for letting us crawl around inside your head. Is there a plan? Is there a chance for anybody to take classes for you? How would that happen?
so we do. We have a brick and mortar school again in Encinitas, Watts Atelier. I still teach usually about two classes a semester, so I one day, and then I'll do two classes in that one day. But there's also an online program, and I've recorded, along with the other instructors, tons of content for that. And that's again, just go to the Watts Atelier. That's WATTSATELIER.com. And then we've got access to both the online program as well as the in-person classes. And right now, the streaming classes are on a little bit of a break, but I think those will probably be coming back at some point once we figure out a better format for them. What we were doing was great, but it just the amount of work involved in it. So we're trying to figure out a different way of approaching that. But there's tons of pre-recorded content. It's like a Netflix for art instruction, monthly membership, and then you just go through and go to the class that you want. And I've got, like I said, I've got hundreds of hours of content in there, and then there's thousands from all the instructors who are all phenomenal.
Oh my gosh, Eric, this is rad. Okay, everybody, you have got your homework in front of you. You got to collect this stuff and then you got to take these classes and take these courses because I'm telling you, man, the reason Eric is so great is because he is such a capable and effective instructor. And we got a little taste of that today. Eric, once again, thank you for taking time and talking with me today.
Oh, thank you, Rob.
All right, buddy. We will see you on the other side. Okay, guys. My wrap up will follow, and we will say goodbye. And we are signing off with Eric. So there you have it, guys. That is EM Gist, Eric Gist. I asked him, in regards to labeling this episode, I asked him, do you want to put it as EM Gist or as Eric Gist? And he says he keeps them separately. The art account is EM Gist, and his name as a instructor, a paint instructor teacher, he uses Eric, so he doesn't want to mix those up. So just something that we didn't get to in the interview that we talked about after it wrapped, I thought I'd share. Really interesting. I just love knowing all the insights, guys. I hope you all enjoyed this incredible download of information about how a really master illustrator is attacking his career, how he attacks different compositions. When he was like, "I'm a constructionist," my mind was absolutely blown. I just love getting into the minds of illustrators who are creating such really impactful work. These covers are gonna, they're gonna be around for a long time. I do believe, when you pass them by in your comic store, they stop you. You immediately catch these images. You want to grab them. They're going to become trading cards, I'm sure. Marvel, once they own an image, that image gets recycled. I guarantee you, this stuff is going to show up on clothes. It's going to show up on merchandising. It's going to show up as posters. I think we are just at the early phases of EM Gist's career. I think when he says he's coming up on, I think, a 10-year anniversary with Marvel Comics, I just sit there and I go, that's like baby. Like that's the first that you're just 10 years old at Marvel at this point. I mean, it's baby steps. I know he took us all the way back to the tag and the strain stuff, but I expect big things from Eric going forward. Really smart guy, aggressive guy, competitive guy, and I think the best is yet to come. So again, thank you, Eric, for sending uh, spending time with us, on the Rob Liefeld Show, Robservations. Hey, wherever you listen to us, whether it's Apple, Spotify, YouTube, iHeartRadio, Podbean, all the other platforms that I'm leaving out. We just want to thank you so much for engaging with us and listening to the show and the word of mouth that you are sharing. I know I've been behind on sharing different things that people write, but I did set aside one that I thought, man, this one is really worth sharing. It's really fun. It came out of nowhere, and this gentleman, I hope he doesn't mind. His name is Clayton Brooks. Clayton Brooks sent me this message on Facebook. It says, "Hello, Mr. Liefeld. I am brand new to comic books. I've been watching videos and learning about them for the past year now. Absolute Batman is the first comic book that I picked up at a comic book shop, and I have been reading through the new series. I've been looking for shows that dive into comic books and even give insight to the business behind comic books. Your podcast is exactly what I have been looking for. I listen to it all day long while I am mowing lawns here in southern Missouri. I love the detail that you go into and the behind the scenes stuff that you have told the listeners. It has quickly become my number one listened to podcast on Apple Podcasts. I love the energy that you have for comic books. It is very contagious. I wanted to reach out and tell you how much I enjoy your podcast, and thank you so much for producing such great entertainment." Clayton, thank you. That came at a time that, man, I think I just needed it. More than maybe the average guy. You know, you sit here, you roll up to this mic, you speak into it, you record on YouTube, and you hope maybe that what you're talking about resonates with somebody somewhere. And I am so glad. The idea that you're mowing lawns and listening to this stuff, I dig that so much. Look, I know we're recording and giving a video component to this, and there's definitely a video component now on Spotify as well that I really think is great. I mean, video is what has been drilled into my head. I still listen to everything kind of. I listen to it. I watch very little, but we are just trying to meet everybody where they want to be. People have told me that that they're not listening on Apple anymore. They're watching on YouTube. So we're growing our YouTube. We're keeping our Apple, Spotify, all those other platforms strong. But it is you guys. It is all of you, and somebody who's so brand new, who really honestly doesn't know me from Adam. Is learning about the industry, and it's the one thing I've talked to you about, you guys in the past. And you know what? It's funny. There are some shows I've mentioned here before, whether it's political or sports, and these people, they give their opinions, but they weren't in the political game. They're just they're critical of the political game, and they didn't play football or basketball or baseball, but they want to tell us how informed they are and how serious we should take their analytics. I will always lean towards listening to the guy who took the court, took the field, took the mound, and the people who put the ink on the paper and make the comic books. And so all I can do is bring to you my experiences, and I am so thrilled that it is resonating with guys like Clayton. So thank you again. That was really heartfelt, really special. I hope that while you're mowing the lawn, Clayton, you just heard me say your name, and I just want you to know how much that meant to me. When I'm not here doing the podcast, I'm all over social media. Catch me over on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Robert Liefeld, RobertLiefeld. Blue check mark says it's really me. That's me reading your messages, your DMs, your mentions, and your responses. I love it. I think it is the most interactive. It's also the most Captain Insano. The people on that on X are literally trying to trigger things all the time. They're like little social media, like throwing little terror bombs. So it's fun. Obviously, I get my fair share lobbed at me. I enjoy them, just as long as we don't start World War III on social media. And what I mean by that is like lobbing bombs after bombs after bombs after bombs. Metaphorically, people, we are not literally talking about the act of making bombs. I can't believe I have to go out of my way to say that. Look, over on Instagram, I am at Rob Liefeld, RoBLiefeld. Thank you, Joy Liefeld. Blue check mark on that one too. She got me on Instagram early on. I was able to get my dedicated name. I'd be Rob Liefeld on X, but somebody beat me to it, a parody account. But at Rob Liefeld on Instagram, giving you a lot of fun content, interactive stuff that we're doing. You're going to see art. You're going to see stuff from the past, present, and future. So Instagram at Rob Liefeld. Love to have a follow over there from you guys. Look for me over there. I will be looking out for you. On Facebook, we have a group. It's called Rob Liefeld Marvel Extreme and Beyond. Rob Liefeld Marvel Extreme and Beyond. It's a Facebook group. It's fun. I really dig it. We have a great community because really this is what this is all about, is community and sharing and talking and discussing. And we keep it very chill. There was a thing about action figures the other day, and a couple of guys wanted to kick up some storm and get angry about it. No, that's not happening. We don't have that. We're just going to be pleasant. We're going to keep it cool. Limit the insults. There's all sorts of other places you can go do that. It's not, you're not going to do it in our space, in our group. Rob Liefeld, Marvel Extreme and Beyond is our group. Myself, a gentleman named Terry Sala, Sala, will be the guys. It'll be myself or him who click you on through. Each episode of the Rob Liefeld Show, Robservations, gets a dedicated post so we can discuss, parse, and examine the subject matter. So we would invite you to join us at Rob Liefeld, Marvel Extreme and Beyond. We will look forward to seeing you there. When I'm live streaming, I'm doing it on Whatnot more often than not. Follow me, Rob Liefeld. Get my alerts. All manner of exclusive product, like this Eric Gist Last Blood, Blood Wolf. There's a couple of these. There's a virgin version of this. There's a couple of different logos, but he also did a blood strike. I don't have it in my hands. They have been behind me on the spinner rack. If you're looking through video the whole time, this is the kind of stuff. This isn't going to your stores. This is exclusive and available only for me. This is also a cardstock cover, just so you know, okay? We do things up, we do things right, we do things fun, and we are looking forward to seeing you when I go live on Whatnot. Rob Liefeld. We got signed toys, action figures, Funko Pops, original art, exclusive comics like the one I just showed you, and classics, Deadpool exclusives, Captain America exclusives, Spider-Man exclusives, all manner of exclusives. We really try and make it a special interaction. So check us out over there. Hey, thank you again for listening. As summer is they roll up the carpet for summer. Not really the season, but the vacation period. I gotta believe it is truly over. I look forward to In-N-Out being empty around noontime. Okay, In-N-Out is going to empty out a little now. Maybe some high school stuff, but if I get there right at the right time, there's going to be that giant empty window because all summer long it's packed 24/7. I would like to have a table, occasionally. Yes, I'm showing my age. I enjoy showing my age. I enjoy being Grumpy Rob. So the season is over, but that doesn't mean that you can't find the silver linings like I just did. There's going to be more room at my local In-N-Out because summer's ending. So that offsets my sadness for summer vacation ending. But anyway, there's still time to take that walk, take that drive, have that coffee, that ice cream with your loved one, your family. Get out, enjoy life. There's going to be a whole lot of football, man. People keep asking me about my Rams and my football teams. They freak me out. The sports has become even more stressful, so we all can welcome the stress together as we, transition from summer to fall. But through it all, we all have burdens that we're carrying through life. We all got stress. We got kids, family, partners, wives, husbands. Hey, whatever it is, we're walking it together, man. We're human. I'm doing it just like you're doing it. There are some days that are heavier than the others. Step away. Find your own personal satisfaction. Have that milkshake. Drink that milkshake. Like Daniel Plainview said, drink that milkshake, okay? That's today's reference to you. And if you say it to me, I'll know you made it all the way to the end of the show and you listened. Hey, 2 fist bumps. Your emotional, your physical, your spiritual. Your emotional, your physical, your spiritual, and your mental. See, took me a while, took me a minute. That is of utmost priority. I hope they are exactly where you need them to be. Best of luck to you. All love sending to you. 2 fist bumps into this Blue Yeti mic. I know we'll be back. Will you? Because I'll be right there. Join me. Don't leave me. We will most definitely, absolutely, inevitably. Okay? Was that good enough? Inevitably. Talk again real soon.